Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Township of North Dundas regular meeting of the Township Council, today being January 18th. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Uhrig, that the meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Dundas be hereby called to order at 1:02 p.m. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. We'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing no, moved by Councillor Uhrig, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that the agenda be adopted as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, is carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Uhrig, that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of North Dundas held December 11, 2023 be adopted as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And we have one delegation with us today. From the OPP, we have Acting Staff Sergeant Alicia Birch, and with Acting Staff Sergeant, we have Sergeant Jim Blanchette. Welcome. And if you'd both please come up, make sure the microphone is on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, and staff. Always nice to be here. Probably not on, eh? There we go.
Now is it on? So thanks for having us today. I brought with us the stats. You can see July to September, and as well as October to December. In comparison with last year, looking at the stats, there's nothing that stands out to us. It's relatively status quo with last year. I have received a few messages from councillors with some traffic complaints and other things like that we did follow up with and did some enforcement, and was well received by members of the community out there. And I appreciate the emails and the heads up with these things, because we will definitely pass them on and do that. So that was great. We have a lot of new recruits starting with us, another 4 coming in February to SDNG. So that's really increasing our staffing numbers and allowing us to get out there and be more proactive. So we're very happy with that, and that in turn allows us to staff our specialty units and get those moving. So that's been great for us.
Thank you. You mentioned, Alicia, or Sergeant Birch, you mentioned some of our councillors have been reaching out, in support of concerns from the community. Is there information that would help with whenever those requests are made or those concerns are brought forward to you? Is there information that should be included in that conversation, or do you seek that out when you're having that conversation? And I ask that because years ago, whenever I would have people comment to me, and then I would speak to maybe Sergeant Blanchette or others, and we knew that you couldn't be there 8 hours a day monitoring that intersection. So it's like the frequency, the worst time of the most occurrences, or your greatest concern, or the residents' greatest concern, and the time that it happens, and information like that be included in the conversation or in the email to us that we forward to you. Is there anything in that line?
No, that would be perfect. Just like you said, where, time of day, what the complaint is specifically, the complainant's contact information. If they haven't gone through the communications center to generate a complaint, we can definitely follow up with that and create one on their behalf and do some follow-up with them. So being able to contact them and having that contact information is pretty key, because then if we don't have the information we're looking for, or we need a bit more, we can contact them and find that out and respond appropriately.
Right, and I know we all deal with things in a different fashion. I mean, the 5 of us here, we deal with things in a different fashion, but it's that basic information that needs to be provided to allow the OPP to do what they need to do to resolve the issue. And I know in the past, I pass on the toll-free number, non-emergency number.
Yes.
And I would, give the list of things you need to include in this conversation, and I've asked them to reach out and develop that relationship. And so they, for a couple of reasons. One, that they know that the information's been brought forward and not slipped through the back of my head, and it allows that interaction between the community and the OPP.
Yes, for sure. The who, what, when, where, and why, you can't go wrong if you give those answers, so.
Right. Sorry, so thank you. Questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none. Jim, anything you'd like to add before?
So the only thing I would add is, please, we can't be everywhere, and we can't monitor everything, so those calls from the public are very helpful. It tells us where we can put our resources and get the maximum bang for your buck, for lack of a better way of putting it. So please, I encourage each of you to call or encourage members of the public bringing concerns. It's very helpful to us. It's sometimes people think they're bothering us. It's not. It's very helpful.
Thank you. And before I go, I just wanted to bring, before we wrap it up, I just wanted to bring up, I've been talking with the CAO, and I know with fellow members of the council about the idea of, and with the Director of Transportation, about reducing speeds in our villages and hamlets. That's always been a concern, and we all, whenever a car zips by our house, even if they're doing 50K, it seems like they're going quite fast, because we have concerns about our own safety and the kids' safety. And so we're starting that conversation in North Dundas about looking at a wholesale reduction of speed in our built-up areas. And I guess more of a heads up that that conversation is going to take place, and then maybe there'll be some questions asked by staff members of Sergeant Birch, and opinions and thoughts on that. And maybe we can support that, if it's supportable, support that in partnership as something that's beneficial to all of us. That's my soapbox speech about speed, but I like to take opportunities to bring it up whenever I get a chance in public. Yeah.
Well, we're always happy to work in partnership, and we'd be more than happy to meet with staff whenever the time comes, when you're ready for those conversations.
Thank you. It's good to hear. You held to your word, Sergeant Birch. It was short and sweet, but we do appreciate the information. And seeing this information, I know we've all gone through it, and we look at the numbers, and we're quite proud of how we're doing in our community. Thank you, and I look forward to every time we have a chance to interact, and I appreciate that.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you. Take care.
Yes, take care. I don't know what's going on there. We're going to move into action requests, and Madam Clerk. Moved by Councillor Uhrig, second by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that council nominate Eleanor Renault as the Mississippi Rideau Source Protection Committee representative this 18th day of January 2024. Madam Clerk.
Eleanor has been on the committee since 2007, and the committee has reached out and asked that she be renominated again, as they find her participation very helpful and that she's very knowledgeable. So we are recommending that she be reappointed.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Uhrig, that council approve policy number 83-2020, public complaint policy as amended this 18th day of January 2024. Madam Clerk.
This policy has been around since 2020, and when it was originally done, it was based on recommendations by the Privacy Committee and the Ombudsman, and it's very intensive and very a little more legal than is actually required. So we were at a recent seminar with Cunningham Swan, and one of the things that was brought up was the fact that with public complaints, we do have an obligation to let them reach out to us and complain to us, but there's not necessarily an obligation on our behalf to respond. So we have revised this policy in such a way that it removes some of the mandatory requirements right off the bat. It was originally intended that when this policy went up, that people would reach out to the township and try to resolve things themselves first. That has not been the case because this is on the internet. So the definitions remain the same, the scope remains the same. But what we're looking to do is take it down from the internet, have people in the community try and resolve things themselves, like with the front counter or by reaching out to whatever department, and then if it can't be resolved, implementing this process at that point in time. So it just removes some of the formality and makes it a little clearer the way it should have been in the first place.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Urick. Excuse me.
It's just a comment, really. Having gone through both of them and just seeing them kind of side by side, I can't believe how overly cumbersome the initial one was. And I'm very in favor of the new one and improved one. And I think it'll just, you know, if it gets to that, it's just an easier process versus the pages of the previous one. So yeah, no, I'm in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All those in favor? Oppose? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Paul. Moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that bylaw number 2024-03, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2019-14, being a canine control agreement with the townships of North Stormont and South Stormont and the municipality of South Dundas and Kevin Castleman, and repeal bylaw 2023-41, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 18th day of January 2024. Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So this is a continuation of an existing bylaw. It's for our pound to renew the contract for the pound. It's only being extended for 6 months. The other townships are looking at other options for the pound. The pound has aged quite significantly over the years, and they're seeking other options. We've sought out Township of Russell to use their pound if after the 6 months there's a decision to go our own way. Us and North Stormont are also looking at Russell Township to use their pound. We don't get that many dogs as we used to in the old days, just by virtue of the internet and other things that people find a dog and post it there. So we're finding very few dogs actually end up in a pound. One of the options was considered is we do a joint pound somewhere in North Stormont or along 43 between the 4 or 6 municipalities of SDNG. The cost of the pound would be absorbed by all municipalities, but it was felt there's just not enough dogs anymore to actually even warrant the cost of construction, the maintenance, the whole package. There's other options available now to use. So that's what other municipalities are pursuing right now in South Dundas and South Stormont. So this contract's only for 6 months, and afterwards we'll look at joining with Russell. I'll bring a contract back to join with Russell for that service.
Thank you for that update. Questions, comments from members of council? Councillor Annable.
In this year's budget, knowing that information, we still set aside the 10,000 that we've always set aside?
No, there's no budget for capital for a dog pound anymore.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. My comment is that I think back to the days growing up in Chesterville and as a youngster and seeing dogs run and just free range, and it was well accepted and well understood that without a tag and it was picked up, it was at the pound, and but those I don't see that so much anymore. And as we've talked about dogs recently, I think it's understood that they're a valuable part of many families, and they're walked on a leash, and the respect, for the most part, there's respect for homeowners' property and municipal property, and yeah, much like when we were discussing the dog tag, I see the same thing happening. People are more aware of where their dog is, and not so much need for things that happened in the past. Anyway, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Mr. Garreau. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councilor Urick, that bylaw number 2024-05, being a bylaw respecting the borrowing of money by the corporation with the Bank of Montreal, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 18th day of January 2024. Mr. Garreau.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So we have before you this afternoon essentially two identical bylaws, 2024-05, which is before you now, and 2024-06. The only reason I'm speaking to both of them at the same time is because they are virtually identical. The only difference is one's with BMO and one is with RBC. So dealing with this one first, our recommendation, of course, is that this bylaw be approved by council. By way of background, we require a resolution of council to approve to approve the attached borrowing bylaw to satisfy the bank's requirements. So this is a requirement of the banking facilities. And this year, of all years, we probably definitely will be in a position where we will have to borrow money. So it was budgeted for. It's not a surprise, but the budget was struck such that it was going to be long-term borrowing coming from Infrastructure Ontario. The wheels turn a little bit slower with IO than they do with the commercial banks, so we just want to be ready, and if we have to incur some short-term borrowing to shore up our defenses while we wait for the long-term borrowing to arrive, that's the nature of this beast in front of us. So basically, the financial analysis at the bottom of page 37 pretty much speaks to that we've been paying some large invoices because of the capital projects, and we've been paying them with our operating cash because we don't have any long-term borrowing in place yet. One of the things holding it up, of course, was the banks and IO as well wouldn't even speak to us until they got our audited financial statements, which, as council knows, was only presented, I think, December 14th, and I only got the signed copy out to them on December 19th, 20th, something like that. So since then, it's moved very quickly. I've had a meeting with BMO, I think it was 2 weeks ago, got a phone call or an email last week. We are approved for a $5 million loan, so that will shore us up in the short term, and I'm expecting to hear back from IO before the end of this month.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments? All those in favor of the resolution respecting the Bank of Montreal? And opposed, seeing none, that's carried. And all those in favor of respecting the motion, in respect to the motion of the Royal Bank of Canada, all those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Oh, thank you. The resolution respecting the Royal Bank of Canada was moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Urick, that bylaw number 2024-07, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy applicable to the year 2024 and to establish the due date thereof, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 18th day of January 2024. Mr. Garreau.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the same thing sort of as the previous bylaw in that it deals with financing, of course, and annual rite of passage into winter, I guess, is that we levy the interim taxes, and the sooner the better. So the Municipal Act under Section 317 allows us to do this before the adoption of the budget. Section 317 says that a council may pass a bylaw to levy taxes, and the only caveat is that they say that levy should not be more than 50% of last year's taxes. So that's exactly what we did do, and it's exactly what we've done in all the previous years. So in conjunction with that, staff are proposing to levy 50% of last year's annualized tax dollars, and we require a resolution of council to approve the attached interim levy bylaw.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Garreau.
Thank you.
Ms. Meerberg. Moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that council approved the award of the supply and installation of one pavilion on a concrete pad for the Hallville Community Park to playground planners in the amount of up to $85,000 excluding HST, and that the Mayor and Director of Recreation and Culture are hereby authorized to execute all related documents. Ms. Meerberg.
Good afternoon, Council. So a request for a proposal for 3 park pavilions was advertised. The locations for the proposed pavilions were Hallville Community Park, Oshman Park, and the location in Chesterville for a proposed dog park. The pavilion and concrete pad proposed by playground planners for the Hallville Community Park is within the 2023 budget amount and will be outlined in the 2024 budget as a carry forward project. The pavilions and pads for Oshman Park and the dog park were not included in the 2023 municipal budget and will be presented to council in the 2024 draft budget as being below the line. For this reason, it's recommended that the pavilions and concrete pads for the Oshman Park and the dog park not be awarded at this time, and that council only approve the award of the pavilion and concrete pad for the Hallville Community Park in the amount of up to $85,000.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Lennox.
Just a question. When in the package it says James Street, I was under the assumption you meant here in Winchester. Is that a correction or?
It is. I apologize for that. The next report speaks to a playground component for that park. So you are correct. It was an error in my report. I do apologize for that. It was meant to be the proposed dog park location in Chesterville.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's nothing further, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councilor Uhrig, that council approve the award of option B for request for proposal number RC 2023-03 for the design, supply, and installation of 3 municipal playgrounds to playground planners in the amount of $323,674.02, excluding HST, and that council authorize the mayor and director of recreation and culture to authorize any related documents. Ms. Meerberg.
So an RFP for an AODA compliant, or for 3, AODA compliant play structures was advertised. So again, that was for the Hallville Community Park, Oshman Park, and unnamed park on James Street in Winchester. Based on a thorough review and evaluation of the proposals received, the top designs were included in a community survey that was posted on our municipal website. Various comments were received for the public survey, and many comments voiced that the design options provided were not actually accessible. Several comments stated that designs were not wheelchair accessible and that they should include rubber surfacing. Included in the RFP was an AODA compliance section, which is outlined in my report, Annex H, which sets out the guidelines for creating a fully accessible play structure. Does not require that structures be wheelchair accessible, but it is identified to be that wheelchair ramps are the best way to provide more inclusivity. Included in my report is a chart that provides options for council review and consideration as far as pricing, the locations, and different options. So option A is the original proposed design, which does meet Annex H requirements, and this is on the engineered wood fiber ground base. So it's essentially like cedar weave or similar to mulch, but more broken up than that. So Hallville Park falls within the budgeted amount of $120,000. You'll see Oshman Park is within budget, and so is the James Street Park. Option 2 provides a wheelchair-friendly option, so with ramps and with also a ground base of the engineered wood fiber. It also shows council the amount that those options would take us over budget. And then the third option is the wheelchair ramp-friendly version on, it's a rubber base for the park, and also shows how that would come in relative to our budget. So it is recommended that option B be awarded to playground planners for all 3 park locations because the proposed structures are wheelchair accessible and have engineered wood fiber, which was approved as a ground base approved by our accessibility committee.
Thank you. This, I'm sure there will be some questions, comments, thoughts. Councillor Lennox?
Sure. I agree with Ms. Meerberg when it comes to option B, where 63,000 over budget is a small price to pay for inclusiveness. I'm not privy to the comments received or the reviews of how they decided on granular versus rubber matting, etc. But if it's wheelchair accessible and it meets the AODA standards, I'm for option B. And again, that's a small price to pay to ensure everybody has fun.
Thank you for your thoughts. Councillor Yurick.
Yeah, I would agree with Councillor Lennox. I did hear from some members of the community when that survey was out, just that, you know, it seemed like the township was being perhaps short-sighted in its, you know, acceptance of reality, and that there are people in our community who, you know, do require a bit more to get around. And I think that, yeah, 63,000 really, in the grand scheme of things, is a small price to pay in terms of making sure that you know, all children, all people are able to play in the parks and aren't limited in what they're able to do when the weather is a bit more inviting than it is outside today. So I'm in favor of the second option there.
Thank you for your thoughts. Others? Deputy Mayor.
I was thinking of another option, only because I know that this year the budget is going to be a difficult one to process. There's no growth this year, and the cost of everything has gone up. My thought was to have B for Hallville, where we would have the rubber matting for the wheelchair, and A for the other two. And that way we'd be over budget by $29,000 instead of 63. We can see what, I know there was a lot of response on the internet where they wanted rubber matting actually for everything, but it's very expensive. And so that was my option for this park.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Further, yes, Councillor Annable.
Well, I would like to see option B as well. I don't see the point of not doing it now when eventually we would probably have to or be asked to. It's not going to give you any less money in 5 years from now, so I think it's a good move to do option B.
And thank you, Councillor. Ms. Meerberg, I'm just, definitely for my benefit, maybe for others, rubber matting's been mentioned. Option B, it's not the rubber matting that's costing $63,000. I'm guessing it's the ramps.
It is. It's the ramps and the modifications, the slight modifications that it takes to the structure to put that ramp in place.
Right. But I know there's been some talk about rubber matting, and that is also part of the price, but it's not the whole of or is the rubber matting involved everywhere on A, B, and C?
No. So in those choices, option C is the one that provides the costing for rubber matting. It's not rubber matting per se like we would use in the arenas. It's actually a rubber ground base everywhere. So option C reflects the costing for that rubber ground base. Options A and B are cedar weave, engineered wood fiber. Cedar weave is a brand name, but engineered wood fiber. So I believe the question was previously asked, could we use rubber mats as an access point to the play structure in some locations? I am looking into that. I'm trying to get the answers from the person who trains our staff on that, whether that is an option or not.
Right, and I'm interested in more information about the rubber matting being used to access different pieces of equipment besides, in partnership with the ramps, or besides, as an addition to ramps, because there won't be ramps to every piece of equipment. There won't be ramps to maybe the 10 spin. There won't be ramps to other swings or other slides or other apparatus. But since there's a determination that seems to, and rightly so, to be forward thinking, I'd like us to consider future projects at those parks that allow us to put some material down that allow, tandem strollers, if you would, or other pieces of equipment that parents use, caregivers use, and so they can gain access to other pieces of equipment as well. And just to make sure that, for whatever the cost is, we need to be considering the cost, but we try to alleviate the pressures and the concerns and the roadblocks and the impediments and all those things. So I'm looking forward to more information about options for rubber matting besides this discussion, to be piggyback to it. Okay, so thank you. To the question, all those in favor? And opposed? Opposed? In favor. Thank you. And opposed, none? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that council approve budget amendment number 2023-15 in the amount of $2,081 to contribute to the purchase of a new projector for the Old Town Hall. Ms. Meerberg.
So as my report states, the projector that is in place is reaching the end of life. The North Dundas Movie Committee has graciously offered to use their expertise to replace the projector at a cost of $4,700. The one that is in place right now was a joint purchase between the township and the movie committee quite a few years ago. So the township is being requested to provide a donation towards that projector. In the 2023 community grant budget for recreation, we did not allocate all of our funds to our community groups last year. So it was recreation associations who had not requested the money. So I am requesting that leftover money from 2023 be used towards the purchase of a new projector, which is used by the community. So it would go to relatively the same place and benefit.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Ms. Meerberg, where would the old projector end up?
We would use it until the end of life, or we could potentially use it for Movies Under the Stars or for municipal purposes. But it would not be discarded until it was absolutely no good anymore.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried.
Thank you.
Ms. Ward. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Urick, that council approve 1 unit of water sewer allocation for 669 St. Lawrence Street, Winchester, for an addition to an IC&I building. Ms. Ward.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So in front of you is a request for a water sewer allocation of 1 unit for a new grading building at the grain elevators here on St. Lawrence Street. It does meet all of our questions, have all been answered. And if council approves this, the IC&I reserve fund for the water and sewer would be at 14.6 units, so still quite a good balance. And then residential would remain at the 23.7.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that bylaw number 2024-08, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Product Care Association for the collection and post-collection recycling services of lighting materials, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 18th day of January 2024. Ms. Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a continuation of the province's producer responsibility modeling, where consumers of specific goods are charged a recycling fee when they actually purchase the product. And then that that recycling fee is then distributed to everyone that is involved in recycling that product, such as the township. So in this case, the transportation and recycling is paid directly by the producer, and then the township receives an amount per item that we contribute to that recycling. So this will actually remove a $1,000 expense that we incur every year and actually add about $260 worth of revenue to our waste management budget.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor.
I'm glad to hear there's going to be recycling for lighting. My question is, I read, that, for instance, fluorescent bulbs should not be broken, and that brought to mind, like I had in my garage 8-foot fluorescent bulbs, which I would like to get rid of. I don't know, I can get them there, not broken, but I mean, they're so delicate. Fluorescent bulbs are so delicate. It would be quite tricky to store them without being broken. I don't know if they have special bins for these things. And my next question was, what do people do with the fixture and the ballasts? Is there another recycling part at the landfill for those?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor, we have specialized recycling crates that come from, currently the company that supplies them is Avitas. So they're a long, it almost looks like a coffin for better terms, and inside it's like an egg crate. It's like an egg crate, and they slide in and they're protected. So we do a sleeve every time that we get bulbs, and then we stack them that way. And then Avitas takes them away in their truck. And then with ballasts and other fluorescent bulbs, we do recycle those as well, but they're done in a different way. So they're actually stored in these big totes that we recycle. And again, they're kind of all stacked together in that tote. And then Avitas actually doesn't take the ballasts. Drainall takes them for us, which is owned by GFL now. But that's the difference there. But we still receive the same payment from this agreement for those items.
Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? None, that's carried. Thank you, Ms. Ward. Mr. Cheney. Moved by Councilor Lennox, seconded by Councilor Annabelle, that bylaw. Thank you. Moved by Councilor Lennox, seconded by Councilor Annabelle, that bylaw number 2024-04 being a bylaw to regulate the installation and usage of entranceways and to prohibit the obstruction of certain drains be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 18th day of January, 2024. Mr. Cheney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, council. So bylaw number 2021-64 was passed by council on September 14th of 2021 to regulate the installation and usage of entranceways and to prohibit the obstruction of certain drains. In this new bylaw that council has before them, we did a little bit of housekeeping, just changed some wording in it and added some wording that we felt should be added in there. There was also 3 new parts that was added into this. One was with regards to the length of entranceway culverts. We have a 9-meter maximum now, depending on the depth of the ditch. Deeper the ditch is, obviously you're going to need a longer culvert in order to get a nice flat surface for your entrance. Due to larger vehicles nowadays, 9 meters is kind of a nice entranceway to come into, and you've got room to pull a vehicle in. The second is for agricultural entranceways. We've increased that length to 15 meters. It's been well received by some of the people in the agricultural industry. It helps to get transports off of roads. They have more room to back into their fields now to load trucks. It's a safety issue. It helps keep the residents of North Dundas safer, so now you don't have trucks on the road and equipment on the road to get around. And the last one is the head walls, retaining walls or structures at culvert ends. We've limited the permission for them on any road over 50 kilometers an hour. The rationale for this is that in the event that a car leaves a road, it has the opportunity to actually go over top of the culvert. Unfortunately, if they're in the ditch, they go over the culvert and they might still stay in the ditch. But it's better than having a sudden stop with an end wall on a culvert. So we added that in there as well. So all of those additions, that's for council's consideration today.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Cheney, is there a grandfather clause for those retaining walls? Because I can think in my head of one, that is interlocking brick, which is now not under this code. So are you, if you spot these, are you going to ask them to take it down, or is there a grandfather clause?
We're not going to ask anybody, we're not gonna be driving around and having people take them down on any roads that are over 50 kilometers an hour. If we see in the transportation department that they're posing a safety risk, then it'll be something that we will impose. If they fall down and become in disrepair, we're not gonna allow the resident to put it back up again. If it's already there and it's, they've spent $10,000 on an end wall, if it's not a safety risk or we don't see it being an issue, then we're gonna leave it right where it is.
Thank you for the question. Is there any others? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Annabelle, second by Councillor Lennox, that bylaw number 2024-09, being a bylaw to enter into a telecommunications municipal access agreement with Explore Inc., allowing Explore Inc. municipal access to rights-of-way under the jurisdiction of the Township of North Dundas to construct, maintain, and operate its equipment, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 18th day of January 2024. Mr. Cheney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in March of 2023, Explore Incorporated reached out to the Township of North Dundas to inquire about obtaining an agreement to allow Explore Incorporated to install, maintain, and operate a fiber optic line in the municipal's right-of-way. The Government of Ontario has committed nearly $4 billion to bring access to reliable high-speed internet to unserved and underserved communities across the province by the end of 2025. This is the largest single investment in high-speed internet in any province by any government in Canadian history. Excuse me. So staff prepared and provided Explore Incorporated with a copy of a municipal access agreement for their approval, which is attached as Schedule A to the bylaw 2024-09 for council's consideration.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor.
See, I am talking a little bit more today.
Good for you.
There you go. I did a little bit of detective work because I knew ExploreNet, and I thought, what's Explore Inc.? And so, of course, I did a Google search, and ExploreNet, which was from New Brunswick, was acquired by Stone Peak, which is a New York company, and they changed the name to Explore Inc., and that's where that comes from.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lennox and Councillor Urick.
Do we know the capacity for the bandwidth of the line they're planning to install?
I do not. Sorry, I do not know what the bandwidth is at. I do know that they're busy at it, and you'll see them along the road, and you'll see big orange pipes sticking up out of the ground. That's the fiber optic that they're putting in.
I was wondering what they were directional drilling up by my place.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Lennox. Councillor Urick.
Well, first of all, thank you for the history lesson, Deputy Mayor. Really appreciate that. Wow, thank you. No, it's nice to see this level of investment. I mean, I don't know how many successive provincial governments or the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus or whatever keep saying, we're going to connect, we're going to connect, we're going to get it all connected, and it takes a lot of time, evidently. And here it maybe is finally a step in a better direction than promises. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. Anything further? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Annabelle, that council adopt policy number 99-2024, seasonal load restriction exemption permit this 18th day of January 2024. Mr. Cheney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a policy intended to provide a uniform and consistent approach to companies wishing to obtain an exemption permit to haul full loads during half-load restriction season on roads within the Township of North Dundas. As council sees in the purpose part of it, as we all know, in springtime, as roads begin to thaw, the road base becomes saturated with water, whereby it loses its structural integrity, reducing the road strength and bearing capacity. There are a number of roads within the township that have not been built to withstand the weight and impact of commercial motor vehicles during spring thaw. This is a policy laid out that will give everybody, as it said, a uniformity. If somebody wants to come in and they want to request a permit to be able to haul full loads during half load season, and now we've got kind of a guideline to go by that we treat everybody fairly.
Thank you, Mr. Cheney. Questions, comments? Thoughts? Staff? Okay, Councillor Lennox.
Sure. I like it. It's going in the right direction, especially considering last year that we went through with Savita. It puts pen to paper. It puts our thoughts and down, or your thoughts, I should say, your department. And it protects the taxpayer from taking on the burden of paying for one industry or one truck or et cetera damaging said roads without actually doing the research involved to see what it would take to bring the road up to standard and everything else. I like it.
Thank you for your thoughts. Anything further? Councillor Urick.
Yeah, I would echo what Councillor Lennox said. I think it is a step in the right direction. I mean, I know even at the counties, at the most recent counties meeting, there was this type of conversation and then an agreement made with a local business here in North Dundas to run county roads. I think it's a reality of the situation that these businesses now have become 365-day of the year operations. Road conditions being what they are, it's hard to stand in the way of business, especially big business and business that generates, you know, a lot for, in some cases, local economy, but certainly the provincial, national economy, and even international economy. But it's also not us just, you know, turning a blind eye and letting these businesses run these roads and, you know, rip and tear and then saying, well, you know, rest of the tax base, I guess you're going to have to pay for these damages, right? It's, you know, if a business really desperately needs to operate on these roads at that time of year, then, well, here's your agreement and here's the process, and, you know, abide by it. Otherwise, you know, face whatever potential consequences come of that, right? So, no, I like seeing this, and I'm glad to move forward with it and hopefully eliminate some of the frantic, panic phone calls that I think most of us up here and certainly some staff members got last spring. So, thank you, Jamie.
Anything further? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Annabelle, second by Councillor Lennox, that bylaw number 2024-10 to enter into an agreement with Savita International permit legal load during half-load period for trucks serving Savita International be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 18th day of January 2024. Mr. Cheney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On December 11th of 2023, Council approved option number 2 with respect to requests for exemption to half-load restrictions on designated roads within the Township of North Dundas for heavy transports and vehicles exceeding 5 tons per axle. As is set out below in the paragraph there, you can see what that was what Council had agreed for. And if you switch over to Schedule A, you will see this is what the permit is going to look like. In where the X's are there, each vehicle is going to have a license plate. So Savita, under the agreement, needs to supply the township with a list of license plate numbers. And in that, those license plate numbers will be put into that permit, and then that'll be laminated, and each vehicle will have to carry that in a vehicle with them. That way, if they happen to get stopped on the road, they can produce that to the MTO or the OPP, whoever is the enforcement, and they can show that, yes, actually the township did give exemption for this truck licensed this number. So for council's consideration, as we talked about on Schedule A, is a draft copy of the agreement as well between the township and Savita, and also attached is the permit. It'll also specify the designated route that Savita trucks will travel on the township. So there will be a copy of the map. I apologize, we did not get it in time for the council package, but on the back of this permit, there will be a map, and it'll show a highlighted route of the route that it has been designated for Savita.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Hannibal, then Deputy Mayor.
It's just a comment, really. It's nice to see after this length of time that we've come to some kind of a meeting of the minds, and it sounds like you've got everything covered, so I hope it goes well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Chang again. Okay, I see above 5,000 per axle. What's the maximum per axle?
The maximum, I believe, in the Highway Traffic Act for single axle, I think is 10,000 kgs.
Okay,
Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 10,000 kgs.
Thank you.
Councillor Urick.
I mean, much to the motion passed or the bylaw passed earlier to this one, I'm very much in favor of this. I'm glad after this length of time, we've finally moved towards some level of resolution, and I think proven that the township is and was willing to work with Savita all along, despite perhaps some contention at the very beginning. The one thing I will say is that it's nice to see this permit piece, but I mean, personally, I'm going to have very little sympathy for Savita as a company if one of their drivers is pulled over without this, knowing that they're supposed to have this. So that's just kind of my own thing. But knowing we've gone down this road and it's been a lot of back and forth between the township and certainly council with some members of the executive team at Savita, now that we've got this firmly in place and it seems that, you know, it's cross the T's, dot the I's in terms of the agreement, yeah, they best be sure that every truck coming and going has this with them, because again, if we have a repeat of last spring, then if the, you know, OPP or MTO just happen to be in the area, well, it is what it is, right? So, no, I'm happy to see this. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there's nothing, no other comments or questions, as Councillor Urick mentioned, we spoke about this on Monday past at County Council, and there's an operation in, I do believe it's centered in South Dundas, so it's going to be far-reaching through SDG, maybe beyond eventually. And they've, that operation, is that business requested some support of them traveling with loads in excess of 5,000 per axle during those periods of time, or certain periods, to be allowed to do that. That process has gone through, and it was spoken about at County Council how that that business is going to affect much, potentially many places, many roads, many municipal roads in SDG, and how each municipality is going to have its own challenges in front of it. And I did speak at the County Council meeting, and I mentioned to my fellow county councillors that they should pay attention to what's going to happen today in North Dundas and take place, and to see the process, and hopefully reach out to our director and maybe our CAO, and you know, for advice or comments on how we got through this process, and some of the challenges that we faced, and some of the reasoning behind our decision, or once we vote on it, the decision. As was talked about at County Council, this is our industry. We need to be mindful of our industry in SDG, especially in North Dundas. And it's unfortunate that the downloads from the province and from the federal government don't see our industry in the same light. I think they simply see it as agricultural areas, and I really do challenge the province and our local MPP to see and argue on our behalf that we need to support industry in SDG, in Eastern Ontario, in our rural Ontario areas, and support it in the fashion that needs support. I think of the support that the City of Toronto gets, and the support that we don't get to support transportation in our area. And it's very disheartening to see that the province touts how great agriculture is and how we need agriculture, but they don't open the purse strings to support agriculture in the fashion that's necessary in this day and age. So, to that soapbox, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried.
Thank you.
And we're going to move into key information. Mr. DeHaan, employee benefit enhancements.
Thank you very much. This report, what I'd like to get out of it is just some direction from council so that I can come back with some additional information and costing for council's approval. It's a little bit of a chicken and egg approach, so I appreciate that it's perhaps a little bit difficult to provide great direction on it, and certainly if looking really for some scoping that you'd like me to investigate, and I can bring that back for council's consideration. Ultimately, I guess think of this as two different topics, ultimately related to kind of cleaning up or finishing off some of the human resource policy initiatives that North Dundas has undertaken over the last little while. This is something that was essentially a file that I was asked to kind of bring to the finish line, if I may, from the CAO, who's currently away. So the two different prongs that we're looking at, one is related to employee benefit improvements as it relates to some of the policies that we have through an insurance provider. So they're covered. These coverages are based on premiums that the municipality pays on behalf of their employees. The second part is a policy, pregnancy and parental leave top-up policy for council's consideration, and that's something that you can consider it essentially self-insured. So we create a policy, and then it's something we insure ourselves. So I'll talk first to the health and insurance policy related stuff, and then perhaps get some feedback from council, and I'll switch over to the pregnancy parental leave policy item. And then get that feedback as part two of this presentation, if that works for council. So some of the scoping that I had understood was being considered by North Dundas included the following, which was increasing prescription eyeglass coverage, from $500 to $500 every 2 years. Right now, the limit is $250 every 2 years. Increasing life insurance coverage to $200,000. Amending the coverage for complementary healthcare therapies from $350 per therapy. So that would be, for example, if you're going to a physiotherapist, right now employees are capped at $350 per year, which when you're going to professional services, that can get eaten up pretty quick. So increasing that from $350 per year to a higher maximum or a combined group limit. So we can look at, for example, instead of $350, we can look at a higher number, or they call it like a basket of coverage. So rather than per type of professional service, you can have up to a maximum of, for example, $1,000 combined. So if you have an injury, related injury to your knee, be able to go to the physiotherapist up to a certain amount, but then it covers all the types of different therapies that you'd be getting. Or the difference is you go $500, for example, to the physiotherapist, $500 to the podiatrist, $500 to other types of therapies that employees may need to go into. Looking at also short-term disability and long-term disability, right now, currently the coverage that North Dundas employees have is at 66.7% of gross earnings, and then it's up to a maximum. So right now on short-term disability, it's up to a maximum of $800 per week, and the 66.7% up to a maximum of $4,000 per month is on the long-term disability. And those, there's a variety of different numbers we can look at or that, if council's interested, staff can bring back some information on in terms of costing. So I guess starting with that, I'd really look to council to say if there's, certain things that they'd like us to, or like me to investigate and bring back some pricing for. Just I did speak with our providers, just for council's information. I did get some very preliminary numbers, and we'd be looking at, if we went to $500 on eye care and up on some of the recommendations that we have on there, you're looking at like an 8% increase, but we can certainly, again, it's a little bit of a shopping list that I can come back with for council, but I want to make sure I'm providing a shopping list that council's interested in looking at, rather than a million different options and spending a lot of time just working through those. So looking for some feedback from council.
So we're just speaking on the employee benefit improvements then?
Yep.
Comments about the employee benefit improvements. Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Lennox.
Okay. I'm okay for $500 for eyeglasses. I'm okay for $200,000 for life insurance because the cost of living has really gone up. Increasing to $500 per therapy, but a total of $1,000 per year, and to split the 500, because per therapy, that means like either a chiropractor or physiotherapist or a massage therapist. So I would say $500 for two. That comes to $1,000 per year. 500s for two therapies in a year. Short-term disability, I'm very comfortable with $1,000 a week. Long-term disability is stated per month, and I figured out, because I know what we get for CPP and old age security comes to only like $23,000 a year. And so I figured out $4,300 a month for long-term comes to about $52,000 a year if someone was on for a whole year on long-term. But besides all that, I think we really need to know, with these numbers, what is the actual increase in the premium? That's what we need to know. So, there you go.
Thank you for your thoughts. Councillor Lennox.
I agree with Deputy Mayor where the total cost of premium would be beneficial to know. And some notes here for eyeglasses and etc. I like the approach that you did with physiotherapy, masseuse, etc., RMT, of having a basket to pick from. For eyeglasses, I would like to see the same if LASIK surgery could be included if possible, and maybe an upper tier, but if I'm not sure if that's possible via the provider. And for the rest, I'm okay. It's ultimately your staff will tell you what they want, and then you come to us and negotiate. And I would rather retain people knowing that they have better coverage than our neighbors. If it means paying a couple bucks more a month per employee, so be it. It's better than hiring and starting fresh every couple of months.
Thank you, and we'll get to the others, but Mr. Dahan.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the things that I think is well worth paying attention to in line with what Councillor Lennox had identified, when it comes to short-term disability in particular, you know, if you have staff that are going off and the numbers that the coverages that we currently have right now, I would suggest are on the low side. And if you're off on a short-term disability leave, oftentimes it's an unexpected leave, and you know we all know about the cost of living, and I totally appreciate the other side of it is we have to pay for these things, but I also think about the unexpected leave where you have all of these expenses that just don't stop because you have been in a car accident or you have some kind of illness that is keeping you away from work. And right now the coverage we get is slightly above EI, but not greatly above EI. And that's not to suggest that that's not good that those things exist, but they do. They are, I would say, challenging financially for staff if you have expenses that you're trying to cover, because we all know again what it's worth. So your point's well taken, and I think that that's a great way to provide some context in terms of what I should be scoping out.
Thank you for that update, Mr. Dahan. Councillor Annable.
Again, just a comment, really. I don't see anything wrong with what's proposed here. It would be difficult to get glasses for $500, but that's a big help from what it is now. I think it's good. I mean, I wished there'd been something like this for self-employed people. But I'm good.
Councillor Urick.
Yeah, no, I mean, to the Deputy Mayor's point, and even Councillor Lennox, I think seeing the premiums ultimately will kind of help in the determination, but I do think that this is maybe not one of the last, but certainly nearing the end of the process in which Council undertook in terms of retention, attraction, and, you know, just general satisfaction of staff currently in place. And I feel that I think if we fumble it now, I mean, that's been a wasted effort. So I do think moving these down the line, and certainly what's been proposed, and even other potential proposals going forward is only in the best interest of current and future staff here at North Dundas.
So I'm going to weigh in with my thoughts, and then I'll get to Mr. DeHaan. The first bullet, I think that's a fair number. It's a number that needs to be thought about, $500. The life insurance, of course, amending the coverage for the complementary therapies, the basket, and not to argue with the deputy mayor, but $500 is 7 trips maybe to the physiotherapist, maybe 7 trips to the massage therapy, to restrict it to a basket, you're restricting the level of care that people could receive. To restrict it to an individual, $500 for this, $500 for that. But I'd rather see the basket where you choose the type of therapy you want to a maximum of the, I think it was proposed $1,000, to a higher maximum, and I would think that we're talking about $1,000. Freedom of choice. Thank you. There's another way to put it. Then I go to the maximum benefits for STD and LTD. I think of we, and society has made the determination that certain jobs, there's higher levels of pay, unless you're sick. And then we're saying that if you're sick, you get $4,000 a month. You get half or less than half of your wage that you currently get when you're healthy. So you've already been burdened by a sickness, and now you're going to be burdened further by receiving less than half your wage if you're in the higher pay bracket. I think that number needs to change dramatically. Maybe it's my past experience with negotiations and WSIB and return to work programs and all of those things. But to burden someone that's suffering with the fear of losing a house, not able to pay the bills, it's not fair. It's not right. But I am interested in finding out, as everyone else is interested in finding out, what the 8% would really mean to us. I don't understand what 8% means. I know what 8% means, but I don't know what it means without the other number. And but I'm also interested, Mr. DeHaan, if we look at the enhancement, if it could be brought to our attention, or to my attention if nothing else, what's 75% of gross earnings, how that would affect the premium. So we have that also to discuss. We have the 66.7, but let's just find out what 75 really means. And then we can make a judgment on that and not worry that if we had asked the question, we could have done something else.
No, that sounds good. I'll come back and have a report with some options for council, and we can move forward based on those options.
Okay, then the next part.
Yeah, so part 2 of this was a pregnancy and parental leave top-up policy, and I understand this is something that there's been some interest informally about such a policy. It's a policy that's relatively, I would say, relatively new in the workplace, but seems to be certainly something that there's more and more interest in, and it's being adopted by many organizations and remaining part of offering incentives and those types of benefits that make you an attractive and competitive employer. So I've provided some information to council in terms of what that policy could look like and some comparisons about what is out there right now within SDNG and some of our neighboring municipalities. I can say that most of those that I reached out to that didn't have a policy said that they were interested, and I'm going to suggest that, depending on the direction we get here and how we move forward, they'd be quite interested if North Dundas does adopt such a policy to look at similar policies, at least regionally within SDNG. So I look forward to council's feedback in terms of what that policy scope looks like.
Thank you. Councillor Lennox, then Deputy Mayor.
For parental leave and pregnancy leave, or maternal and PATA, I want to be the best in SDNG. Frankly speaking, my employer, I believe, is 86% for the full term, and it's 18 months now?
12. You can prorate it to 18.
Yeah, 12. I would like to go the full term at minimum 85%. Again, you spoke to retention. If we can retain people and be a good model of freedom of choice for healthcare and everything else, let's do it. And with that said, I do have to go.
Okay. Will you be back? Thank you very much. So, Councillor Lennox has to leave for a bit, and we'll go to the Deputy Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Lennox works for the federal government that has very deep pockets, and because, well, we know they go into debt every year more and more, so I wouldn't like to see the township follow the same lead. When I compare with what's available locally, I'm quite content with 16 weeks of 85%, and then after that, the next 36 weeks of topping it up to $1,000 per week. That's kind of a balance between, you know, the full term and thinking of the ratepayers.
Thank you for your thoughts. Councillor Ehrig.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable, like, looking at this here. I'm comfortable with what adopting, if that's the option we were to choose, of what the counties currently offer. It seems reasonable. It seems taxpayer conscious, let's say. I mean, I am all in favor of, in terms of retention, attraction, and I don't want it to, I know it, in the past, this has been an issue, and I think we've seen staff leave because of something similar to this, right? So I think it's in our best interest to do what we can, but also, you know, we are, we're drawing from the same pot, right? And I mean, taxpayers' dollars only go so far. So to say, you know, to Councillor Lennox's point, would I love to be the best? Absolutely, I would love to be the best, but you also do have to sink into reality, unfortunately, sometimes. And I think this is where this is a spot to steer into reality still, but also being respectful and mindful that, you know, it is a, you know, one, you know, whether it's maternal or the paternal leave, it is still it's not, you know, it's not a vacation. It's a big, big thing, right? So knowing what individuals go into when they either bring a first child, second child, third, whatever child into the world, it's a giant undertaking. And if this is one less thing we can have them not to worry about when they go off, then so be it. I'm in favor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Annable, thoughts?
I'm sorry, I find all this very foreign to me. When my son was born, we got diddly. Nothing. 85% sounds reasonable to me. Sorry?
For what? For what time frame?
The way it's stated is fine with me. 16 and 10.
So what I'm interested in finding out, Mr. DeHaan, is, albeit it would only be anecdotal, how often how often do we have staff members leave to go on mat leave or paternity leave or parental leave? I think that's the better way to say it. How often do staff members go off on parental leave? What's the history behind, you know, what has been the history to that? You know, and even if it could be, this is what we would have suffered over, you know, those leaves, because I know that it doesn't happen a lot. We don't have a lot of people going off. It's a big number if you think of it taking place for every member of our staff going off, and that happening. I think more people go off on illness and injury than on parental leave. And it's a big game changer, and I listened to what the Councillor Annabelle has to say about how at one time, and it's unfortunate that at one time those things weren't seen to be fitting for families and parents, but times have changed. And I'm interested in finding out, albeit it's only throwing darts at a dartboard, what financial impact the last 5 years would have cost us if we could, based on something like that, or the last 10 years, what it may have cost us if we went 85% full term, and to what SDG Counties is offering, what it would have cost us. Year by year, as a financial implication, and round that number out to over a 10-year period, this is what it cost us. And this is all about losing staff, because we have lost staff that have left. And I think of some departments that I think it took almost 3 years to get their feet back underneath them because of the lack of parental leave, maybe longer, because we had 2 staff members leave one department, and in quick succession. And big impact to the service that we offer to the community, to the service that we're able to provide, and to the health of the corporation. It was a big impact. And to think we're going to save $10,000 a year, if that's what the number rounds out to be, the pressures we put on ourselves to offer a service. We need to consider that. It's not just the financial implication here. It's the implication that our staff members face and the residents face when they don't get the answers they want, or things aren't done in a timely fashion. How upset are they? There's more to it than just the financial here. There's a bigger impact. So I'm interested to find out, and I understand it's not cut in stone what those numbers would be, but I want us to consider that, what the impact is to the corporation, financially and as a service provider. So if we can get that information. Is there anything else to add to that? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Don. Mr. Raystrick, Chief. Good afternoon. I don't know. Slide it to you.
Sorry. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council. As you are aware, we're investigating a number of key initiatives through the fire service for 2024. The first one being staff remuneration review, which is in front of you. We've included a chart outlining what the neighboring municipalities are offering. One common compensation element that was identified in fire services, that most are offering a minimum pay per call out. Staff are of the view that including a minimum call out within our wage model will entice responses during daytime and support employee retention. It will better compensate staff for the time that is associated with a fire response. So subject to council's consideration, I will present a further report at an upcoming meeting to formalize the change.
And so, I'm sorry, questions, comments? Deputy Mayor, thank you.
I only have one comment in that I know that legally, if you're an employer and someone comes to work for you, whether they stay half an hour, either you have to pay them for 2 or 3 hours. And I think it should be the same thing for the firemen.
Yes, so the ESA states a 3-hour minimum for a call-in. Volunteer fire services are exempted from that 3-hour minimum. There are departments that do offer it, the 3-hour minimum. We're not asking for that. We're asking for 2. But yes.
Anything further from members of council? I'm just wondering if we're to go down this path with a 2-hour, and this is going to be proposed at a later date?
Yeah.
Or this is the proposal now that you're looking for support on?
Well, this is my key information. We can do an action request at a later meeting, yes.
So would we, if we're to go down the 2-hour call out, I guess within the year, we'll find out the success of that and if there's a value to it.
Absolutely.
And, but I think in your key information, it also will help reduce the need to call in other stations to come in and support, because maybe the 2 hour pay, their call out pay, would help ensure that we have enough members respond to the hall.
Per station, yes.
Per station.
Yeah, that is the idea. We implemented a 2-station response during the daytime during COVID. We were having a struggle getting enough people to come. So we then hopeful that we can eliminate this by having enough members come to each individual station, that we don't have to do the 2-station response.
Okay, thank you. I think there's nothing further.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Slide.
Ms. Ward?
Thank you, Mayor. So in front of council this afternoon is another report regarding a success story that we had in 2023. So I'm just coming back to you with the information we received from, as council will recall, you approved the Food Cycle Science pilot project. And what I wanted to start off and say is I wanted to thank all the admin staff. They did a lot of the front work. They answered a lot of phone calls. They took a lot of payments. They answered a lot of questions. So without them, this project probably wouldn't have been as successful as it was. So I do really appreciate their help. So as council will recall, we gave out 100 food cycler units to residents that were interested. We had a wait list of 200. So we still do have some people that are on a wait list, should council choose to consider this project to move forward. I'll just quickly go through some of the statistics. I won't go through the entire presentation because council does have that in their package, but just some of the highlights of the program is 47% of the participants, before they got a food cycler, they were placing their food waste in the garbage, which is quite common, I think, for most people. 54% weren't even participating in composting. One of the biggest reasons being pests and animals, which I think is, again, quite common. So on average, participants use their 2-liter device 4 times a week, and by use it, I mean they cycled it, so they would actually press the go button, and it would go through its cycle. Whereas you can see the larger device, the 5-liter device, they used it 3 times a week, so the larger the device, the less they needed to cycle it. So Food Cycle Science provided that calculation, so that's about 22.6 metric tons of waste per year. So that's quite significant if everyone in the township were to do that. And then, of course, residents were reporting generating half a bag less of waste a week, amounting to about 21 bags less per household per year. So that's also a great savings, especially considering our landfill is coming up on its full capacity. 93% of respondents did not see an increase in their hydro bill. That was one of the largest concerns that we had when the pilot project started. So 93% didn't even notice an increase to their hydro bill. 98.77% of respondents are recommending the food cycler to others. 100% plan to continue to use their food cycler, which is excellent. And then overall, the rating for this pilot project by the users was 4.7 out of 5 stars. So again, another success story. And if council chooses to prolong the next stage of the pilot project, it'll be within the budget for you to consider.
Thank you. So questions, comments, Councillor Lennox and Councillor Uhrig.
Yeah, 22 metric tons, that's a lot of waste saved. But yeah, I'll cut to the chase here. I'm tight on time, so I'll say let's recycle this program.
You had to take a break to think of that. Oh, yeah. Thank you for your thoughts. Councillor Uhrig.
I'll start first by echoing Director Ward's thanks to the admin staff, because as a council member, I merely pitched that we should go down this road and then completely washed my hands of it. So I had no part in the many phone calls or emails. I know I did hear from some residents, though, who were very excited by North Dundas piloting this program and even participated in it and are reflected in some of the numbers here. I would I mean, I personally would call this a resounding success. I think that's fair to say. Yeah, to your point, I mean, we're all aware of where the state of our landfill, even though that's but a drop in the bucket really in terms of overall scale of what comes and goes out of the Boyne Road site. That the bit we can do, the better. And I'm absolutely in favor of continuing with this. I know that there were some who missed out on the first 100 that desperately want their hands on one, so I think it would serve us well to continue.
Thank you for your thoughts. Others, Councillor Annable.
I would like to see it continue. I didn't think as a single person living in the house that I would get that much use out of it. But when I clean the experiments out of the back of the fridge, I think of this quite often.
Thank you, Councillor. And thoughts, Deputy Mayor?
Well, no, I agree. It's a very good project. It's decreasing the amount in the landfill, and yeah, more material is recycled.
I had a chance to listen to, I was on the road this morning, I was listening to a radio story about cleaning out the fridge and feng shui and how to deal with that stuff that you end up putting at the back. You put it on the door, so it's top of mind all the time, and it doesn't get lost. And I missed participating in the somehow in the survey, but the numbers that I see on the screen, I tout this all the time, and every time I use it, I'm like a child, I have to show Amy how much that was and how much it is, and it comes down to 20% of the volume or less each time. And I made the comment to Ms. Ward, to you, about, yeah, and exactly, half a bag a week. I've reduced by that much at least every week at our house. It's a great project. And besides the benefit of reducing the 22 tons to our landfill, I think it allows those that want to compost and don't have the means to do it to do it, because not everyone can. If you live in an apartment, how do you do that? So it's an opportunity for others to do things that they feel, that we know is a benefit to us. And I'm just waiting to see how the grass grows in the spring, because I spread that out with some topsoil in the fall, and I want to know how tall the grass grows. So I'm looking forward to this. I too support this project. I think it's important that we do certain things for our environment, and this is one of them. Thank you. Consent agenda. Before I read the resolution, is there anything that anyone wants to add? Moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Annable, that all items listed under the consent agenda be approved or filed as recommended. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. I think you're on a time crunch, Councillor Lennox?
I got till 3.
Okay. Then we'll just follow the agenda. We'll move into boards and committees. County Council. I think at the County Council meeting, Deputy Mayor will help me with it, but I think the biggest thing was the approval for Get Corp to transport the byproduct of dairy operations and cattle operations, the manure, and to support the production of RNG, renewable natural gas. It's a good thing, and it's quite an interesting project. Raw manure goes out, natural gas is produced and treated. Would that be the best word? Manure?
No, it's just returned.
But it has changed somewhat, and the manure goes back, and it's better manure than when it left, if you can imagine. And it's better for the ground. It's better for the environment, and so it's a good. So far, it's seen as a great project to support the environment, and the counties have approved method to ensure that that project can go ahead. I think that was about the biggest, thank you. Canada Day, nothing. Parade of Lights, nothing. Dairy Fest, nothing. Art in the Waterfront, Councillor Annable.
They met Monday night, and they've done this for a long time. They have a set schedule of things to do. It's tracking down entertainment and people who will volunteer, but the basic things that go on there don't really change all that much.
Okay, thank you. The Downtown Committee,
We haven't had a meeting since before Christmas, but we're meeting on February the 5th. We're going to start getting ready. Vince goes south for a month and Owen's away for a month, so we want to get things on the go before they go.
thank you. And CDHS,
I have not been to a meeting for that. I have an awful time to get me, to tell
Okay.
me when they are.
fair enough. Green Action Gang,
No update from the Green Action Gang. Going into the Morwood RA, the Winter Carnival's coming up February 2nd to February 4th. Opening nights 6:30 p.m. at the RA Center. Please come out. It's followed by the bingo, then in the morning, firefighters breakfast, then a bunch of other fun games and events. Please check out the Morwood RA's Facebook page, which you can find on the North Dundas website because it's hyperlinked. Other than that, no updates.
I'm just wondering, Councillor, do you know if there's a log song contest?
I will tell you in 30 seconds. here.
Okay, you look that up, and then while you're doing that, Chesterfield Carnival.
Ahead of the Morwood Carnival is Chesterfield Carnival, January 26th to 28th. Chesterfield Winter Carnival on Facebook. Everybody can take a look there. Tickets are on sale for various things. Sign up is available for some of the events, like the dart tournament. There'll be a pancake breakfast hosted by the firemen on the Saturday morning. And then there's some ice time available, I believe, or they were looking into that anyway. And they're definitely, what they're hyping up is that you can spend the day in and around the Legion, and then in the afternoon go across and watch the Junior Rockets play in the afternoon. So, yeah.
Excellent.
I have a question regarding Chesterfield Carnival. Will they be having log sawing on their Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. like in Morwood on February 3rd?
No, Councillor. They'd rather you be over in the rink watching hockey in the afternoon at 2
Okay,
o'clock.
great.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Well, the reason why I asked about the log sawing, so I guess there is, that continues. I think of years past that Councillor Thompson and the two of us would enter as a team. So I'm looking forward to some councillors, maybe the deputy mayor, entering as a team in the log sawing contest.
You replaced Mr. Thompson.
And someone can replace me. So yeah, no, the log song is always a challenge.
And I just want to correct an error on my part. It's actually the Senior Rockets playing. So you can also come watch and listen to our illustrious mayor make the calls between periods. There you go.
There you go. Yes, Senior Rockets. So that covers that. We're going to move into motions, notices of motions. There's been a notice of a motion and a request concerning the Township of Clearview by our deputy mayor, and I'll ask her to speak to that.
Okay, I'd like to support the motion by the Clearview Township, where they're talking about abandoned cemeteries. It was a surprise to me a few months ago to find out that every time a church abandons a cemetery, the township becomes responsible for the upkeep, meaning taking care of the grounds, but also repairing the tombstones is also part of that. And tombstones are not cheap to repair. They're quite expensive. And so Clearview is asking the province to take over this job. So I would just like for us to send a letter of support of this motion by Clearview.
Thank you. We have a resolution in front. I have a resolution in front of me, moved by Councillor Annable, seconded by Councillor Lennox, that the Council of the Township of North Dundas supports the motion from Clearview Township regarding cemetery transfer/abandonment administration and management support, and instructs the clerk to send a copy of this resolution to the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery, the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, MP Eric Duncan, and MPP Nolan Quinn. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And we also have from Councillor Lennox, who would like to speak about something that has been brought to our attention from the township of Asphodel Norwood. Councillor Lennox.
Yes, this township's facing similar issues as much other smaller townships are with increasing insurance rates. Every year, premiums are jumping up, whether it's because of inflation, claims, etc. They're looking at a total of 99.5% from 2020 2024. Well, North Dundas is averaging 40% every year for the last 5 years in insurance increases. To put it in perspective, when your taxes, or when you get your tax rate for the year, there's a few percentage points of that assigned just to pay the insurance. This could pay for easily a dog park or a fancy Zamboni or etc. So I would like to support this resolution and bring it to the attention of the finance minister and hopefully get some resolve at some point. We really need help. As you mentioned earlier, it's not just Toronto, it's smaller communities too. And it's a big price to pay, our premiums, so.
Thank you for your thoughts, and there's a resolution in front of me, moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Annable, that the Council of the Township of North Dundas supports the motion from Asphodel Norwood regarding rising municipal insurance costs and instructs the clerk to send a copy of this resolution to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MP Eric Duncan, and MPP Nolan Quinn. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. Petitions, council comments and concerns. Council comments and concerns. Municipal ratification. Before I read the ratification bylaws, is there anything that I've missed, Madam Clerk? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Annable, second by Councillor Lennox, that bylaw number 2024-11 to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 18th day of January 2024. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And in conclusion, moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Annable, the council adjourn at 2:39 p.m. to the call of the chair. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow council members, staff, thank you very much for your attention today. And until next time, take care.